Everyone, welcome to this edition of Monday Morning Musings. Steve Crosby here. We are continuing on in a little nugget study from the intro and some spots in John's Gospel. We're going to shift now from the intro just to some random word things that are just really interesting and I think very helpful. John is a very unique gospel. He uses words in ways that nobody else does. Not the way Paul does, and sometimes not even the ways that classical Greek has used them. There are about a dozen words in John's gospel that he uses very uniquely. And we're just going to hit two or three of those in the next few weeks. And I want to start with the word agape. Now, we know that that's love, the love of God, the unmerited love of God. And I've done word studies, and I know you probably have too, on like the 5 different types of love: agape, phileo, eros, storge. Those distinctions are true, but they're not as concrete. And it's not like those definitions don't cross over in usage in the New Testament, because they do. So you can't they're not mutually exclusive. It's like like chain mail. They intersect at times. Yes, they're distinct. Each loop in a chain mail is distinct, but they do intersect. And when it comes to the love of God, or the scripture calls agape, I'm very concerned that in our culture, because of the way our culture handles things, that there has been a sentimentalized presentation of the love of God. And we talked about that in 2 of our other previous episodes, so I'm not going to rehash all of that. But there are 2 qualities in John, 2 essences of how he uses that word agape that are very important. Number 1, and this is very common in John, agape for John is something active. It's a verb. How can love be a verb? 71 times in John's writings, the Gospel, the Epistles, Book of Revelation, if you want to count them in on that, 71 times as a verb or a verbal noun. Why is that important? Because agape is not an inward feeling of wellness connected to my self-esteem, and that's where I'm really concerned. I hear so many Christians talk about agape, about love, 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 love. And when you distill it down, it's all about the warmth of their personal feelings towards other people or towards themselves. Agape has nothing to do with your warm, subjective feelings towards another. There's an aspect of agape that is very rarely, or if ever, mentioned in any presentation I have ever heard on this word in all my Christian experience. Because I'm convinced the reason we don't hear about it is because it really bothers us as Westerners, and as independent Westerners, and as subjective Westerners, and as private people. In the use of that word agape, there is the significant connotation, not a little bit, a major connotation. Agape is the attitude of satisfaction of a superior to an inferior. It is the relationship of someone who has superior status towards someone of inferior status, and it is this relationship. This is what I'm about to describe to you, what it means. Even though I am superior to you, you don't owe me anything. I don't hold the fact that you are inferior against you. You don't owe me anything. There's no obligation. My superiority does not demand anything from you. Saints, that is such a perfect word to describe God's dynamic, outgoing love towards the human race. That's why they chose that word. Now, for us, we don't like that idea that somebody just is a superior, because we don't like hierarchy, we don't like rulership. We're egalitarian, everybody's equal, and those things may be true. But there are different ways that we can be superior, and I mean it this way. It means this: the one who has the right to be demanding doesn't demand it. The one who has the right to expect appropriate behavior doesn't demand it. The most perfect example, I don't have time to do it today, is in the little letter of Philemon, or Philemon, it's Philemon in my understanding, where St. Paul appeals to love rather than his right as an apostle or as a man of God. He appeals to get behavior, he says, for love's sake. And he even says, Paul says in Philemon, I have the right where I could demand this of you, but for love's sake, I'm not going to. So agape doesn't excuse rotten behavior. It just understands and makes allowance for the fact, and even gives people room. It's like the erasing of expectation from someone who can't really give it. Folks, if that nugget gets into our human relationships, marriage, family, church, it'll change the way we live, it'll change our families, and could even change our culture. Think about it. An attitude of someone who's superior to someone deemed inferior that expects nothing of them, doesn't hold their shortcomings against them. That is the love of God, and I'm glad. See you next time.